Publitarian Podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, and especially good evening. This is Ronald Johnson, Publitarian, coming at you again with another episode of Publitarian Podcast. Yeah, I'm just going to leave the sound effects play for a minute until it's awkward. Of course, it's that time, October 31st, a very spooktacular time for everyone. So a happy Halloween to you guys, or as someone like me that grew up in a Christian household, happy Holyween, or happy Holy Week, or actually sometimes, depending on what church you went to, happy Hallelujah Night. Because you had to have some kind of alternative to the satanic devil's holiday known as Halloween. Anyway, to my Christian listeners up there, I hope that your childhoods weren't totally warped and that you still can enjoy this holiday and just have some fun and, you know, go out with your kids, get some candy, do whatever you do. Mrs. Publitarian and I have a fur baby, so I will be dressing him up, and I'll probably end up putting costume pictures on the interwebs, and that will probably be the extent of our Halloween festivities. Although, fun fact, we do live next to a graveyard, and that's always fun around this time of year. Oh, there goes the beer fridge, right on time. It's become a staple of the show now. So anyway, let's get right to it. Speaking of scary, as a Florida resident, this doesn't affect my national listeners, but it may. It is extremely scary for me to go around this great land of mine known as Florida and the number of Andrew Gillum signs that I see. For those of you unfamiliar, I'll just make it really brief since it's local politics, but it's like democratic socialist type stuff that could affect you nationally. Andrew Gillum is running for governor here in Florida. I'm seeing a lot of signs by him. And now what's scary about Andrew Gillum is even left-leaning CNN tried to set up a nice softball for him when they had him on. And they're just trying to help him out as best as they could. And then finally he's talking about, this Medicare for all and all these great, programs and everything. And then the CNN anchor, who is, as you know, no friend to the right, was like, so how are you going to pay for all of this stuff without raising taxes? And then he did what they all do. They just start going into this spin and corporations and evil rich and everything else. Hey, newsflash, Andrew, I'm a corporation. I own my own business. I'm a human being and I'm a taxpayer. Just because I have a corporation at the end of my name doesn't mean that I'm like some wealthy elitist 1%er. So anyway, the dude's just freaking totally clueless, and it scares me. It scares me how many of his signs I'm seeing. Although, I'm not letting it bother me too much because, again, I'm not going to make any predictions because I don't want to jinx anything, but I don't think we're going to have anything to worry about from him. But time will tell. I should put in the evil laugh right there, but I won't. Anyway, moving on in this Halloween edition of Publitarian Podcast. Speaking of Halloween, let's do a little bit of news that matters. That's been a while.
And now, news that matters.
Mr. Announcer guy, you don't know how to turn off your creepiness, but that's all right. It's still Halloween, so we'll let it slide. All right, news that matters from the Huffington Post. And so apropos for today. Woman who claims to have had sex with 20 ghosts, now engaged to one. Well, let's hear it for monogamy, right? Right-wingers like that. Amethyst Realm of England says ghost lovers tend to be more sensual and adept than the average bloke. Her mate appeared on Australian hike. Oh boy. Okay, so here we go. A spirited fling with an Australian ghost has ended up in true love for an Englishwoman. In fact, the ghost just proposed, and she wants the living world to know. Amethyst Realm, didn't see that name coming. Amethyst Realm, 30, of Bristol, says she's had sex with at least 20 ghosts since she was a teenager, but wasn't looking for a new relationship when she went to Australia on a business trip. Sorry, so unprofessional me laughing through this. Anyway, however, she says that changed on a nature hike when she came into contact with an apparition and felt sparks like none she's ever known. Realm didn't think it could amount to anything serious because she says spirits tend to stay in one place. But something amazing happened on her flight home. She felt the presence of her lover on the plane and apparently not stowed in cargo. I couldn't believe it. I was happy and excited. So excited that we had to do something about it. So we headed to the plane loo, she told the Sun. Oh boy. And well, now I'm a member of the Mile High Club. Oh boy. Should have proofread this before I wrote. Oh well. Anyway, there we go. It's out there now. For those of you that don't know what the Mile High Club is, never mind. I'm not going to explain it. Just DuckDuckGo and look it up. And for us non-Americans, a loo is a bathroom. Okay, let's see. That was 9 months ago, and things have progressed to the point where Realm discussed her desire to marry and have her ghost's baby on the British show ITV This Morning in August. Okay, there's about 5 more paragraphs of this, but I think that's spooky and scary enough for this edition of News That Matters. Now then, I had another topic that I was actually going to talk about, but there's so much news of the day that's happening that I thought I needed to give my take on that instead and maybe let this rest until next week's podcast. So anyway, the BET network and other liberals are saying that asylum seeking is legal. And what that means is obviously we've got the big caravan heading up from Central America, basically an invasion heading towards the United States borders. The president has made it clear that the military will keep the border secure and the caravan keeps on coming. And what I find astonishing is that now liberals are talking about things that are legal and not legal. You know what? Drinking alcohol is legal too. That doesn't mean it's necessarily a good thing for you, especially if alcoholism runs in your family. I also find it absolutely hilarious that the left side of the aisle has now become constitutional scholars over this issue about what President Trump can do and cannot do with his executive orders. For those of you that have missed that, President Trump is saying that he is considering signing an executive order that will take care of the birthright precedent that has been in place, but it's not ever really been discussed. And what I mean by that is there hasn't been any kind of Supreme Court ruling on it. There have been legislators that have written about it, and if you look the actual 14th Amendment up in the Constitution, the first part talks about who is a legal citizen and who is not. The second part, which talks about political jurisdiction, gets glossed over, and I think that's what gets missed. Because if we didn't have that political jurisdiction part in the second part of that 14th Amendment, then 2 Americans could have a baby in Great Britain and then that kid would not be an American citizen. So political jurisdiction is important. And he's talking about this crazy notion that illegal aliens come to this country, have their baby here, and then is what is called an anchor baby. And then that baby is automatically considered a citizen of the United States. So it's never technically been brought up in the Supreme Court. So Trump is doing this executive order to end that. And of course, now the liberals are constitutional scholars. And even more so than what's going on with Trump making the executive order and whether you believe that's constitutionally sound or correct, I'm taking the humor out of this instead, and that our liberal friends are all of a sudden concerned about the Constitution. I want to thank the president for tricking liberals into actually reading the Constitution. Maybe these liberals will end up red-pilling themselves, eh? You libs were happy when it was Obama and he had his pen in his phone, and the Constitution was just an old, outdated document. But now you liberals have breathed new life into it, and I mean, I'm not going to try and attribute any more 4D chess play with Trump, but if this were a 4D chess move, this would be brilliant. He actually got all of you leftists to defend the Constitution and get on record talking about how important the Constitution it is and how things are unconstitutional. When your president, or just before Trump, had his pen in his phone and was trampling all over the Constitution, and that was fine. So bravo, Trump. Bravo, Trump, for making liberals care about the Constitution again. Taking guns away? That's okay. Enforcing immigration laws? Nah, fam. Anyway, what else is going on? There's so much going on. That's why I thought I had to do a News of the Day segment. Oh, the Kanye West incident. I figured this was going to happen sooner or later. It's kind of the same thing that happened with Roseanne. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. For my people on our side of the aisle, I would say, that would be anything that's not leftist. Centrist Republicans, classic liberals, libertarians. You cannot invest yourself too deeply in celebrity opinions, or it will come back to bite you. That's the lesson we take from this. So what I mean by that, I've kind of given you the punchline without the lead, but I'm sure you know this already. Kanye has sent out some tweets saying that he felt like he had been suckered into joining a political movement when that's not what he was trying to do, and that he's going to distance himself from politics now. And I think what's happened, there's been enough like people inside of his inner circle that have gotten to him. But that's the risk you run when you have a quote-unquote free thinker. Free thinking is not thinking conservative all of the time. So if Kanye West really is a free thinker, then I give him props for being a free thinker. But all of my friends and family on the right, if you were looking for these celebrities to champion your beliefs and opinions, you have to remember at the end of the day that they are just celebrities. And a lot of times they're not well versed on politics or these subjects, and they're still running deeply on emotion and feelings, and that can be a mixed bag. Some of them are medicated, and I'm not speaking out of turn. I'm talking about the Roseanne incident, where she was talking about Valerie Jarrett looking like a cross between the Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of the Apes. She then went back and said, hey, I was heavily medicated then. And that's the risk you run when you put celebrity opinions or people that have a high following, when you put them out in front of something on an issue. Having said that, I have no problem with Kanye wanting to distance himself from politics. And it's not stopping the young black conservative movement that has started, or the Blexit as it is called now. And I think it's really amazing that young African Americans, young black people are starting to wake up and realize that they had been under a different form of slavery, kind of like a mental slavery, like a socioeconomic slavery, which ironically gets blamed on the right. And it's really just an engineering tool of Democrats and liberals, and it has been for decades. And conservatives, right-wingers have never had a good enough message or a good enough champion, because we were always concerned about being, this well-spoken, well-versed group of people that have all of this facts and data. And sometimes facts and data are great, but if you're dealing with a socioeconomic issue, which should rely on facts and data, a lot of times if you're emotionally invested in something that you've grown up with, like you've been preached to at the pulpit even, and your entire community has been brought up thinking a certain way, a lot of times facts and data aren't going to do it. You need somebody from that movement, somebody that has grown up in it and that have had the scales fall off of their eyes to kind of see the light. And I think that's been the gift of Candace Owens, who started off not only a year ago as just a YouTube person called Red Pill Black, and started just challenging African Americans and their ideals. And it really, really warms my heart to see that the Democratic stranglehold on the African American vote is finally being broken. It's about dang time. Anyway, I didn't mean to get quite into a rant on that. Moving on. Speaking of black people, and speaking of racism, it's okay to be racist as long as you're on the left side of the political aisle. I don't think I need to play the Hillary Clinton clip for you now, to where she said that all black people look alike. Now, I am going to do some benefit of the doubt because I do try to be fair. I think Hillary Clinton, as much as I hate that frickin' nasty harpy, I think she was just making a joke. But regardless of that, she is given a pass by the leftists. She was doing a Q&A, and the person doing the questions it got Cory Booker confused with Eric Holder. And Hillary Clinton said, they all look alike, right? And everybody laughed and applauded, and it was a funny joke. Now, if a Republican or a conservative had done that, imagine the repercussions that would have happened because of that. That's all I'm saying. I've given her a little bit of a pass because I don't think she was being vindictive. I think she was just trying to make a joke. But at the same time, any right-winger would have made that joke. Their career would have been ended. A complete double standard that I probably do not need to point out to people on this show because you are just an intellectual good bunch that listen to this show. But anyway, you've got Don Lemon from CNN as well, or Don Lennon, as I call him. He can say whatever racist thing he wants to, right on CNN, right on prime time, and it's just totally fine. He actually said on the air that white men are the problem in this country. If that's not racism, I don't know what is. He's actually married to a white guy, by the way, and I find that kind of amusing. But anyway, white men are the problem, and all of these crazy maniacs and shooters they lean right, is what he said, and these white men are the problem. There's only one teensy issue I take with this, Mr. Lennon. It's not true. You are lying. You are actually giving false information to people. These shooters are not all white men, and they're not all right-wingers. This nutbag that shot up the synagogues hated Donald Trump. Hated him. And anytime you do any digging, if you see a party affiliation, they're always a Democrat. The guy that shot up the Republican baseball game a year ago, Democrat Bernie Sanders supporter. So if you want to start assigning political blame, we can, but you will be severely found deficit. Anyway, that portion just makes me sick that you have somebody on prime time air on the news saying that white men are the problem. And it's not white men are the problem. There's a lot of problems in society, and I would not attribute it to any race. You could certainly attribute it to ideology or possibly culture, but not to race. And it makes me sick that a quote-unquote journalist would go on the air and say that. Anyway, that's my Don Lennon rant. I've given him enough time now. Moving on. Speaking of journalists, it's amazing. It's a week out from the election, and conservatives, especially conservative journalists, are being silenced. Laura Loomer is in Twitter jail. Laura Loomer is a Jewish journalist that does a lot of good, gotcha reporting and exposés. And she is in Twitter jail now, and she is suspended until, funny enough, the day after the November 6th election. Gavin McGinnis is another right-winger, podcaster, does stuff for CRTV. Pretty sure he organized the Proud Boys. He has been deplatformed totally, taking off of all social media. And I find that amazing that that's happening right before the election, right when we need those political voices. But yeah, nothing to see here, folks. Just one big conspiracy, right? Let's see what else I got. I think that's it. Well, I hear my music anyway. So I guess we'll just wrap it up. We'll call it good. I hear my outro music happening anyway, so we'll just call it a day. Oh, Don Lennon. I wish I could just say things and make them true like you. If I could just say something and make it true, I would say all liberals are living on an island far away from America. and poof, it would happen. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? Anyway, you guys have a safe Halloween. Eat a lot of candy. And I will see you next week on Publitarian Podcast. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Publitarian Podcast. Copyright 2018.